Have you ever tried to get a child to stop doing something, but then, no matter what you would say, they wouldn't stop, and they would just continue doing what they're doing? As a teacher, there are often things that happen within a classroom where I need to step in and guide the children to help them explore and understand what it means to be an active member within a classroom. With that in mind, using words such as stop, don't, or no may not be the best to convey what I want the children to understand. I wonder how your experiences have been with children when it comes to asking them to stop something. Have you had success in doing so, or has it been more so of a challenge? And what has led your interactions to be either or? Picture this. You're with your child at a dental office, and your child has a car in their hand. They take the car and they place it on the floor, as well as their body. They start pushing the car around the floor, and to make it more exciting, they roll around so that the car goes from the floor to the sky and back to the floor again. You see that they're rolling on the floor, and very quickly you say to them, "Stop rolling on the floor, it's dirty." The child turns to look at you and says, "No, I'm having fun." You try again to convince the child to stop, saying that the floor is really dirty. A lot of people step on it, a lot of people come in here, you don't know where their shoes have been, and now you're rolling all over the floor. You're picking up all those germs and you're gonna get sick. To which the child just continues and ignores what you have said. What would you do in this situation? Would you continue on with this narrative of saying that the floor is dirty and that they'll get sick? Or would you pivot and try another tactic? You see, often when we come across moments where we want children to stop doing something, we use our own perspective to rationalize why they should stop. Our perspective and our reasons are not wrong. The floor is dirty, and there is a possibility that you will get sick. But to the child, the fun they're having, the excitement of this imaginary play of pushing the car around from floor to sky and back again trumps this idea that the floor is dirty and that they might get sick. And so, what do we do in these situations? We have our idea, we're saying it to the children, but they don't care. How do we communicate to them in a way that they can understand what we mean, but then also take to heart and stop what they're doing? If we backtrack to thinking about why we want the child to stop on the floor, one thing that we need to recognize is that this is our perspective, something that we are trying to convey and convince the child of. With that said, in this moment, the child is the one rolling on the floor, not ourselves. And so, we aren't the ones getting dirty. Granted, if the child gets sick, then we'll be the ones to care for them. In recognizing that this perspective comes from ourselves, we need to be able to understand the child's perspective, as well as to use language that shows the child we see what they're doing, we value what they're doing, but we are concerned. And our concern is based on a perspective that directly impacts the child in what they're doing. For this ordinary moment, I was a bystander and I watched this child and their parent interact. Seeing as this child is not mine, nor am I this child's teacher, I didn't feel comfortable in interrupting in this moment. If I were to interact with this child, and if I were this child's parent, I would say something along the lines of this. "You know, I see you're playing on the floor. You're having so much fun pushing your car around and rolling on the floor. But you know the floor is dirty. There's a lot of people that walk in here. And so, that means your clothes is going to need to be washed. Now, I've asked you to get off the floor because it's dirty and you might get sick, but you don't want to. And so, in you deciding to stay on the floor, I'm going to ask that when we go home, you are going to wash your clothes because you're deciding to stay on this dirty floor. Ultimately, if the child did get sick, it would be unethical for us to not care for them. And so that is a must. But the clothing being dirty, the clothing needing to be washed, is something the child can take responsibility for. And so this perspective directly impacts the child and what they're doing. Now our goal is not to just stop what they're doing, to interrupt their fun, and they get angry at us. Rather, it's to get them to recognize the current situation, the current outcomes of their situation, and then to decide how else they could play with their car. Situations like these happen all the time in the classroom. And as a teacher, I don't just want the children in my class to stop what they're doing and then move on to something and not get to do what they want to do. I want to help them to think about how they can execute their idea while thinking about the outcomes of their actions, and then having the space to decide whether or not they want to accept these terms. As you put things into perspective with the child, then you are able to come together, become more aware and mindful of their actions and decisions in the future. This then helps the child to continually build a foundation that supports them to create space where they can watch, think,